right, friends, today is the long-awaited sweet potato day. So I'm super excited to finally get my sweet potato slips in the ground. It is the end of May. It is very, very, very warm out today. Luckily, sweet potatoes really like it warm out. But let me walk you through how we made sweet potato slips, what they look like, and what we will be planting them in today. So we started like a elementary school science experiment. We just took a sweet potato, we put a few toothpicks in it, sunk it in a glass of water. It starts growing roots after a little while, and then it starts growing what are called sweet potato slips. So I just left a few on here so that we could see what those look like. Now, I honestly just take them straight from the base of the plant like this. I pull them off, I clear off some of these bottom leaves, and then if you can come in here and look really, really closely, I don't know if you can see this, but right at where each of those leaf nodes were is the beginnings of little roots. And so if you sink this in a glass of water, this will all root out. It will root out from here down, and you will get a little baby sweet potato plant. So we've already done that with a huge cup of sweet potato slips. So I have this mess of sweet potato slips here that we will start to parcel out individually. But they've been soaking in that water for at least a few weeks, growing out those roots. Now, I am currently in a zone 5B, 6A in northern Illinois. It is not great weather for sweet potatoes. Sweet potatoes like it really hot for a really long time. And we get warm for a while. But sweet potatoes take a good 100 to 110 days to develop good, big, fat roots. But this is a sweet potato that we grew last year, so it certainly is possible. They're just not quite as prolific as they are in the southern states where they can really grow like weeds. We are growing them in containers, mostly because I am too lazy to dig them out of the ground. Digging sweet potatoes out of the ground is just very hard work, and I don't feel like doing it. So we grow them in just these bags that we have out front. I have a mix in here. There's some that I haven't quite mixed in so that I can show you. So in each of these big bags here, we have this beautiful compost, organic compost that we got a big delivery of this year because we just really needed it. A lot of vermiculite, so once you see this all mixed in, you'll see this as like the white stuff that you see in store-bought potting soil. And it just really helps add a little bit of aeration. This compost that I got is very, very heavy, and the sweet potato roots would have a really hard time going through something that heavy. So I just air it out a little bit with this vermiculite. It also helps with water retention since these are in containers. That's also a really big deal in the summer when it does get hot. It's hard to keep these as watered as they'd like. And then this white powder that you see on top of all of these is just some bone meal. So just straight bone meal. I don't tend to give them a lot of nitrogen. They don't need a ton of nitrogen to grow, but the bone meal just helps a little bit with root development, and since they're a root crop, I really like to add that. It's probably not necessary with this amazing compost that I have in here, but that's what we're doing. All right, so once we get those nice and well mixed together, the planting is actually super easy. Some people say they have a really hard time starting slips. They put those sweet potatoes in the water and they just can't get them to grow anything. They really need to be in a very, very warm place. I actually keep ours in the room that has our heater in it in the winter because that gets very, very warm even in the winter. And they grow like weeds there. But if you put them on a windowsill in a 60-degree room, it's gonna take them a really, really long time to grow. So I think that's one of the places that a lot of people have trouble getting those sweet potatoes to grow. All right, and then we're just gonna come get our slips, start separating them out. I will probably, so I have some smaller bags here and some larger bags. In the larger bags, I will put at least 3 sweet potato slips, maybe 4, depending on how many I ended up with. And in these smaller ones, I won't put more than 2. So let's get into it. You can pause pause for a minute. All right, guys. So now that we've got them all laid out kind of where we want them, one of the keys to sweet potatoes is that they will in fact continue to grow roots all along their stems. So when I first plant them, I just dig a little trench and I bury that whole piece of stem so that we get really good, nice root development. Now, as they vine out, sweet potatoes are a vine, as they vine out, they will continue trying to find dirt contact to put down roots in other places. Again, I have a very short sweet potato season here, so I discourage them from doing that. The containers also help a lot with that. If they were in the ground, every point of contact, they would try and grow a new root, and then every root you'd get would be very, very small. So the best way to get a couple of nice big roots is to bury as much of the stem at the beginning as we can, and then keep it from burying itself again as the season progresses. So like I said, I'm just gonna make a little trench here. We're gonna get those roots nice in there and cover it up. And that's what we're gonna do for all of these, and then we'll come back through and water. You can keep filming. I'll just do a sped up version. That one's really nice. Yeah, that one was really good. Sorry, lost my cameraman. They don't look like much now. They look like sad little leaves poking out of the dirt. But I promise you, when I take another update video in a couple of weeks, these will look crazy. Now they take a little while to take off, sweet potatoes, because they really, really, really do prefer it really hot. So on these very hot days like today, I think the highs are going to be in the mid 80s. They should do really well. But there are some cold days still left. You know, we do have one of those seasons where we get some 60 and 70 degree days. So what I will do on those days, I actually brought it out here, is I will use this fleece and I will just cover them. And I will get them gently tucked in on those days, because they really, really, really don't do well with the cold. So I don't think they need it today, so I will put that away for today. But then we will get them nicely tucked in, probably in a couple days. I think there's actually some 60-degree weather coming up. Sweet potatoes really don't do well when the temps drop below 50. They can actually die off. So even in the, you know, with just the evenings going below that, I have to be super, super careful with them up here. So that's it for the sweet potatoes, guys. I'll see you with updates when they start growing.